Welcome to the Learning Lounge on Lake Sumter TV. I'm Mark Roberts, and I'm joined by Greg Parady of Parady Financial. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
So this is the first of what we hope is going to be many conversations about helping people retire better.
I hope so.
Let's start with annuities. I know this is a big part of what you talk about when you're coaching your clients. I think it's one of those things that people know the word, but maybe they don't understand what annuity is. Give me sort of that overview concept of what is an annuity.
Well, annuities are a huge part of retirement planning today because more and more people are retiring without pensions. They're the only instrument that you can purchase on your own that will guarantee you and your wife, if you're married, or spouse for that matter, a guaranteed stream of income that you can never outlive. So annuities are basically contracts with an insurance company that'll pay you income now or immediately or income later. If it pays you immediately, that's called an immediate annuity. And if it pays you later, that's called a deferred annuity. We only use one particular type of annuity. We use guaranteed annuities, and we use them we use a combination of annuities to create guaranteed pension-like income for retirees using the portion of their assets that they don't want to risk.
So explain, where does the money come from that goes into the annuity, and then how does the money come out when you talk about that ongoing stream of income?
So most of the people that we work with here in Florida are very close or already retired. So how you fund an annuity, which assets you use is really important. So generally clients are going to have three different types of assets from a tax standpoint. They're going to have IRA, 401k, 403b, 450, tax deferred money, right? Your retirement money. Then they'll have their after-tax money. Those are your bank accounts, money you've already paid taxes on. And then there's the tax-free money, which we can talk about later. IRAs and 401ks, that money was always designed to be a supplement to your Social Security and your other streams of income in retirement. It was always designed for that.
Right.
In fact, if you don't take money from your IRAs, when you turn 70, the IRS helps you take distributions, and the distributions are based on your life expectancy. So when we're designing an income plan, we want to use IRA assets rolled into IRA annuities and then structure distribution strategies that'll fit their lifestyle. So how you fund an annuity, meaning which assets you use, and then when you take the income from the annuity can have a really big impact on how much of it you get to spend and enjoy.
The amount of money that you're able to take from the annuity, I assume, is based on how much you have into the annuity. What are some of the other elements that factor into? In other words, can I say, hey, for the next 5 years, I'm going to get $1,000 a month coming out of my annuity, or does that fluctuate?
That's a great question. There are various types of annuities. So a lot of times people will say, is an annuity right for you? Should I buy an annuity? And we think it's more about a combination of annuities, and let me talk about that. So there are short-term annuity contracts, annuities that will pay you a stream of income that's guaranteed for 5 years, 10 years. And then, of course, there are some that will pay you for life. And how you build your income plan is largely, you want to have some short-term annuities, some long-term annuities, and some in the middle so that you can really use the benefits of all three types of contracts to create a tailored stream. So, yeah, absolutely. There's short-term contracts, mid-range income streams, and long-term income streams. And a good example of where we might use a short annuity is, let's say that you're in your late 50s or early 60s, you haven't elected Social Security yet, and you're trying to make a decision on when to start taking Social Security. So you're 61 years old, but you want to let your Social Security benefits grow until you're 66 or 70. That's where you might use some of your own money to buy a guaranteed stream of income between today and when you might elect your Social Security benefits.
And when you say your own money, cash is just sitting in the bank somewhere?
Or retirement accounts.
Okay.
Again, I really prefer to focus on IRAs and annuities together first because the negatives to annuities is generally going to be there's going to be some restrictions for liquidity. For example, if you have $300,000 in an annuity or a combination of annuities, you're generally going to be restricted to about 10% of what you put in there as a withdrawal. So you can generally only get at about $30,000 a year.
Right.
Well, most people have been deferring their IRAs for 30 or 40 years. They've never touched their IRAs because of the tax consequences.
We've been taught not to touch our IRAs.
Well, that's right. When you're younger, you're accumulating assets. The power of tax deferral and the power of compound interest together really is what helps you get to retirement.
Right.
So, but now when you get into retirement, it's all about distribution. And so we want to use the money you're going to have to take out anyway, or the assets that you're going to have to take out anyway. And that's why we really try to pair IRAs and annuities together.
What are some of the factors that impact that stream of revenue during the course of the time that I have that annuity? You said that it's backed by insurance. So do market conditions affect, does the performance of the insurance company affect how much money I'm going to be able to draw at any given time?
So what I'm hearing you say is what types of annuities are there? Well, there's several factors. So a fixed annuity is generally going to be a very conservative product. The insurance company will guarantee you a small interest rate, and therefore you're going to get a smaller payment. A variable annuity, which my company does not offer, is going to be more invested in mutual funds or what they call sub-accounts. It's going to be more aggressive. There are going to be ups and downs, and so your income will depend largely on the performance of the underlying investment. What we use pretty much exclusively is what's called a fixed indexed annuity, and it's some people call it a hybrid. I just call it an indexed annuity, and what it is a type of fixed annuity where you get the opportunities for more gains without the market risk. So it gives you the potential to offset inflation but without taking the downside. So when the market has a bad year, you're not going to be subject to that. But the products that we use also have guarantees built into them. So when we build an income strategy, we're going to build the income strategy based on guaranteed contract benefits. And so we're going to use the guaranteed distribution riders, which of course have fees with them. But we're going to build an income plan that has that. So that's the first part. When it comes to how much income you get from annuities, we really want to tailor the distributions that you take from annuities to match your lifestyle. Right. So for example, if you're 60 years old, your money has to last for 30 or 40 years potentially in retirement. You might start off with a smaller income stream, and then as you get older, it'll get bigger to offset inflation. But if you come to me and you're 75 years old, you might say, hey, listen, I've got 10 more good years of travel. So we might front load a larger stream of income up front so that you can go and knock out that bucket list. And then it's okay if it dips down a little bit as long as you know you're going to have a guarantee that lasts you for the rest of your life. So when it comes to the streams of income that you get from annuities, you'll hear me say over and over again, it's the combination of annuities and then how you tailor the terms and the benefits of those annuities to fit your lifestyle goals. It has to match the goals.
What are some of the, I don't know why, but for some reason I feel like annuities have a bad rap. I don't know if they've changed over time. Are they misunderstood? Are they mispresented?
All of those. I think they're misunderstood. They've been misrepresented. Some of the biggest problems I see with this industry is, number one, I think they were actually created at the wrong time. They were really released in the early 70s to a generation of people that already had corporate pensions. They had Social Security. They grew up in the Depression era. They didn't know how to spend money anyway.
Right.
And so that generation of people had two ways they could invest their money, basically. They could invest in the stock market, which most of them were terrified of because of the Depression and the crash, or they could put their money in the bank. So if you were looking for a safer or a more conservative alternative to the stock market, you could just put it in the bank and get, for a long time, double-digit return. Today's retiree, no pension, living longer than their parents ever did. And if you're going to rely on interest rates that the banks are paying, I think you're going to have a really difficult time living off of that income. And so what's really happened over time is the other options for the conservative money, for the portion of your assets that you don't want to risk, the options have just shrunk. I mean, where do you go to get 3, 4, 5, 6% interest and have your money guaranteed by an insurance company or, in the case of banks, or a bank? I mean, it would be hard to imagine how many golf carts would be lined up trying to get into Citizens Bank tomorrow if they would offer a 5 or a 6% interest rate.
I'm there.
And that's the space. That's the space that the indexed annuities try to simulate, is 5 to 6% distributions with no risk.
We're talking annuities with Greg Parady in the Learning Lounge. You call it annuitology. I like that word.
Yeah.
When we come back from break, we're going to talk about who annuities are intended for and who maybe they're not intended for. We'll be right back. You're watching the Learning Lounge on Lake Sumter TV. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Learning Lounge on Lake Sumter Television. I'm Mark Roberts, joined by Greg Parady of Parady Financial. We spent the first half of the episode kind of getting an overview of what annuities are. Who are annuities intended for, and who are they maybe not intended for?
Annuities are not going to be for the do-it-yourselfer, the guy that, or the folks that just love the stock market. Maybe they already have a pension. Annuities are for the portion of your assets that you don't want to worry about, that you want predictable results with, that you want conservative returns, and you want earnings potential with benefits. And that's the big difference there. So it's either for the conservative-minded investor, or it's for the portion of the assets that you want to be more conservative with.
Is there a magic age? I mean, you know, if I'm in my 40s or my 50s, is it time for me to start putting money into an annuity, or is that premature?
I think once you get into your 40s, you should start looking at some of the benefits that go along with some of the new annuity contracts that are available. So I think if you buy an annuity in your 40s, you're buying it for the accumulation with future income. So you're buying deferred income. If you are already retired, you're probably going to want, and you're looking at annuities, you're probably going to want a strategy for when you're going to take it. Remember, annuities, when structured properly, should be paying you income for the rest of your life. So if you buy an annuity at 60, 65, 70, 75 years old, if this instrument will pay you for the rest of your life, how many more years do you want to wait before you start receiving those benefits?
Can you outgrow the money? In other words, can you live longer than the money will pay out?
No, and that's the thing. That is like the thing that annuities do that no other instrument does. You cannot outlive them. So let's use the example. You put in $200,000 into an annuity strategy, and it never earns interest. Let's just say it never earned any interest. This is the difference between measuring investments on earnings and then measuring annuities, which offer earnings potential plus benefits, the benefit being lifetime income. So let's say you have $200,000 in annuities, and let's say you're drawing out $10,000 a year, 5%, and it never earns any interest.
Okay.
At the 20-year mark, you've taken out all of your money. It never earned any interest in this example. So you bought it at 60, now you're 80. You've pulled out all of your $200,000 and you live to be 100. They will continue to pay you the $10,000 for the additional 20 years that you lived. That's called earnings with benefits. Now, it's unrealistic for an annuity to pay zero, but you can never outlive your money with annuities. And the new generation of annuities has made it so much more flexible. You asked me earlier what the negatives are in annuities. They're almost always compared to the wrong things. They're always compared to instruments that are only measured on earnings, whether it's a bank CD, a bond fund, mutual funds, or index funds. Well, you could have earned more over here, or maybe you could earn more in an annuity. But at the end of the day, it's the benefits that people want. You know, when you're working, a lot of people took less salary when they were working for the benefits. Annuities are like adding benefits to your money. You can add death benefits, you can add income benefits, and that's the difference that you can't add with really any other instrument.
If I'm an 80-year-old sitting here watching this show, should I be dismissing the fact that I'm already too old, I missed the boat, it's not going to be able to provide me enough financial security, I'm not even going to look into it?
I would say not necessarily. You're 80 years old, you've got assets that you've accumulated, you want to protect them. You don't want to have all the exposure in the stock market. What are your options? Where do you go?
Right.
We're still coming back to what are my other safe or more conservative money options? So we have a lot of people in their early 80s all the way up to age 85 where they'll come in and say, hey, listen, I've had enough of the market. I remember it from 6 years ago. I waited for it to come back, and I'd like to protect some of it. I want to protect some for my wife. I want to protect some for my kids. And so those become powerful instruments for that.
When you're talking with a client, a potential client, what are you looking for? You mentioned how long you're going to live. What are you looking for in understanding what role an annuity could play in their life versus perhaps something else that might work for them?
What I'm looking for is how can I tailor a strategy, a distribution strategy that will help clients or help individual enjoy money, enjoy confidence, financial confidence with streams of income at the different phases of their retirement. There's 3 phases. There's the first half of retirement, which is your healthiest and your do-it-now years. It's when the grandchildren are the youngest and the most interested in coming to visit. That's where you start knocking off the bucket list type things. Then you have the second half of retirement. The second half of retirement to me is 2 things. It's the been there, done that, where you've already done all the fun stuff. You've your kids, the grandkids have their driver's license. They're not as interested in anything having to do with grandma, grandpa anymore. And you really just want to make sure that you're not going to be, that you can maintain your lifestyle, right? That's the second half. Or a health issue has come up, and you're forced to do less. And then there's overtime. And overtime is where you want to be financially confident. You want to know that you can be independent. You love your kids, but you don't want to move back in with them. And so, maybe. So we want to make sure that we've covered the first half so that you can do everything that you want. You're going to be, have confidence in the second half and remain independent in overtime, which is your older years, your longevity.
My parents are in their 70s, relatively healthy.
Yeah.
And they're at that point in their life, they're in that first half, as you described it, where they're going on trips and, Dad just got a new car.
Spending your inheritance.
Well, we say that half jokingly.
Right.
But the other half isn't this also the time that you have to be responsible and conservative and understand that when second half kicks in of your life, have you burned through checking off that bucket list, that now you've put yourself and maybe other members of your family in financial jeopardy?
So go back to that first half, second half overtime. It's often really hard to know what you're going to need in the future. So what we do is we actually start by doing the plan backwards. We'll go ahead and we'll make sure that we take care of overtime first, do some planning for down the road. Then we'll make sure we've got the second half taken care of so that we can actually kind of back into, okay, we've taken care of the second half, we've taken care of overtime. How much is left? What can we go ahead and build a strategy around for the first half? And then it might be a 5-year first half. Mm-hmm. It might be 12 years. It depends on what's left.
So maybe they should take the 7-day cruise instead of the 10-day cruise.
Yeah, maybe do the 4-day trip. And a lot of people go on trips now. They don't even get off the cruise ship. They just want to go hang out with their friends. But you should never, I talk about living and enjoying your money and as much as possible. People move to the villages and surrounding towns. They moved here for lifestyle. But we would never mortgage somebody's financial future or jeopardize it living for today.
Sure.
I mean, you have to have responsible planning. I also should add that you would never put all of your assets in annuities. Okay, so that's a really important thing.
Give me 2 final thoughts. Give me the most common misperception or myth about annuities, and then give me sort of a final, why should this be an important part of my financial planning?
The biggest myth on annuities, these are not your parents' annuities. Today's generation of annuities, you can get guaranteed income without worrying about outliving it. You can protect your principal from the fluctuations of the market, and then whatever's left, whatever you don't spend, will always pass on to your beneficiaries. We don't use any products today where insurance companies keep your money. That's number one. And the second question again?
The second question was, why, now that you've busted that myth, why does this need to be an important part of my retirement planning?
Well, the number one fear today is outliving money. There are numerous studies where the number one fear among retirees today is, I'm concerned about outliving my money. If the number one fear in America today is outliving your retirement assets, and there are instruments that are specifically designed to guarantee that you won't, we think it's time you take another look at these products.
We've been talking Annuitology with Greg Parady from Parady Financial. When we come back, Parady Cares gets involved in the community, and we're going to meet a member of Honor Flight. Hear a little bit more about that organization, the role that Parady has played in supporting that organization. Stay tuned. You're watching The Learning Lounge on Lake Sumter Television. Welcome back to the Learning Lounge on Lake Sumter Television. I'm Mark Roberts. We were talking earlier with Greg Parady from Parady Financial. Joining us now is Peter Tatro. You're the chairman of fundraising for Honor Flight.
Yes, I am, sir.
So there's a relationship between Parady Financial and your organization, been kind of supportive in the past. You want to talk about that for us?
It's been a happy marriage since the beginning of time, and that's when Greg came along, that started our time. It's been wonderful. They've stepped forward to honor the veterans. The veterans did a lot of things. They only saved the world. They saved our language. So we have to honor them constantly, which we do. He's been assisting us, and it's not inexpensive to get these fellows and ladies. We also have lady vets that we take.
So back up for 1 second. For people who aren't familiar with Honor Flight, give us the overview. What exactly is that?
What we do is we take all veterans, regardless of their service and what service they were in. We usually do 35 veterans, 35 guardians. We have one guardian for every veteran. A lot of these veterans are still very mobile, but we want a person to be with them at all times.
And what do they experience during the trip?
We take them to as many monuments as they want to see, whether it's the World War II Memorial or it's the Korean Memorial. We also have the Vietnam Wall that they get a chance to see, and that kind of speeds up the situations with the veterans of bringing back memories.
And that's what I was going to ask you. What is the reaction? Is it therapeutic? Is it nostalgic? Is it emotional?
Some of these veterans have never spoken in regards to what their service was. Now they're back in with a group of people that realize they did the same thing. So now there's a little communication going on. Now they're willing to talk a little bit in regards to it. And as the day goes on, we'll see the changing of the guard. And all of the emotions start to climb, and then they go down. Mm-hmm. So when we finally load them up and kind of bring them back, we have a police escort going and coming. Well, this police escort, it just separates the whole line of traffic. Mm-hmm. And on a 2-lane highway, you've got usually two buses going between two sets of cars, and the lead, whether it's motorcycle or police cars. I had my eyes opened when I did it, and I didn't see how they could put a bus through those spots, but they did.
That's pretty cool. I get chills. Do you get chills listening to this? I mean, what was your interest level in getting involved with these guys?
I can't even count how many veterans we have as clients, and this community is such a phenomenal community, and it's really, I mean, it's got to be one of the largest concentrations of veterans of war that live here, and we wouldn't have the opportunities that we have in this community or anywhere without the sacrifices that our veterans have made. And it's amazing the stories that I hear when people come back. There's always an annual celebration right here in the villages, and you get to just see firsthand and hear firsthand what it was like, and it's a real honor to be part of the Honor Flight.
Peter, if people want to get more information about Honor Flight, website?
It will be villageshonorflight.org.
Excellent. Well, thank you for all that you guys do. We appreciate it, and continued success and great flights in the years ahead.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
You've been watching The Learning Lounge on Lake Sumter Television. I'm Mark Roberts. Thanks so much for joining us.